Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, and this week I had 11 comics, which is a pretty normal haul for me. But before I get into the comics, I do have a couple of updates. First of all, Monday, I actually am going to be interviewing the editor-in-chief of Mad Cave Comics, so definitely go check that out. And you have a chance to win one of their trades over there, so I have that all promoted on my social media, but that's going to be at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on this channel, and that's Monday, which is a live show. And then other stuff, my comic book Like Father Like Daughter issue 5 is officially available on the Etsy store. It has a humongous cliffhanger, really excited for people to read it, and the description for my Etsy store is in the description below, where I have all my comic books there that I've written. So issues 1 through 5 of Like Father Like Daughter and issues 1 through 2 of The Dancer. So issue 2 is also officially available for that book as well. So go check out both of those things. And lastly, I have my mailing list that I just opened up, and that's going to be updated on a weekly basis, and all you have to do is sign up, and each week you'll get a mail or email about my writing, either TV writing, comic book writing, and entertainment journalism, even YouTube stuff. So if you just want to see more about my process of my craft, definitely go check that out. So all those links are in the description below, and I'll put them in the comments as well. Now, jumping into the review this week. So number 11 for me is Vampironica New Blood issue 3. Now, I did not know that this was such a short miniseries. I expected it to be a miniseries because usually the Archie horror stuff are, and I guess usually their Elseworld stuff are usually miniseries. So I was ready for that, but this was so much of a filler issue for a penultimate issue. We get to learn a little bit about the past of, I forget his name, but he's one of the vampires, or werewolves. I think he's a vampire. What's his name? He's one of the characters that's also from Jughead, The Hunger. And we learn about him going into Riverdale and, being one of the first settlers of Riverdale. So we get their whole history, and really it's only 2 or 3 pages where we get to see Dilton and Veronica. And I think it was important information, but I wish it was a bit more exciting the way it was told. And also I kind of wish it wasn't the penultimate issue of this whole miniseries, and the next issue is the last issue after following kind of a slower burn story, which is all exposition. So honestly, I gave this 1.5 stars. I was really disappointed with this issue, sadly, but hopefully the finale picks things up. Artwork is still really solid for this book, but it didn't really save it for the story. I felt like they could have done a lot more with these pages. So I'm going to give that 1.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Buffy the Vampire Slayer issue 13. So this is also kind of another one-shot, not really about the series issue, and we get to learn more about Kendra, which honestly is a character we didn't really get to know too much about in the show. She appeared, and then Faith showed up, and we just never really got to see more of Kendra. So that is a shame. I want to learn more about her. But this narrative didn't get me interested or invested in her story. The one thing I really enjoyed was that the Jamaica setting. I thought that was so different, and I love seeing that. But Kendra herself, I just could not wrap my head around her personality, and she just wasn't a driving force for me for this issue. So overall, I gave this 2.5 stars. I wish that we got more of Kendra in this series before we got an issue like this. That way you have the emotional baggage of her. But that's kind of been my issue of Buffy, in general, is that it's been very all over the place. I feel like there's a lot of excitement to explore a lot of different storylines, but without having really a concise focus or scope for the series. I hope that changes after this, the event, Hellmouth event, that just ended, so hopefully it becomes a bit more concise. But right now, starting off right after our event to have a filler issue like this, I wanted to get straight into Buffy, so I thought that was a shame. And also the artwork is really cartoony for this book, which I don't feel like it quite fit for this one. So Buffy for me gets 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Strange Adventures issue 1. I was actually really surprised that this was so low, because I love Mr. Miracle. I really enjoyed Vision, but I will say that Batman kind of teetered off for me. I was not a huge fan of Heroes in Crisis, so I guess Tom King for me is like half and half. But for his B-list hero characters or, storylines, I feel like he usually does a really good job. Now, one thing I will say is this is very much a Tom King story. His flavor is all over this comic, I would say. It's very jumpy, where you're like, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm sure we'll get some answers, and it's trippy and postmodern all at the same time. So that's definitely the vibe. And the story's about Adam Strange, who honestly I don't know much about, and I feel like a lot of people going into this book probably don't know much about him either. And he was a war hero, and he comes back home, and everyone loves him. He has his own book coming out. People want his signature. He's on TV. Everyone sees him as a hero. Except this one guy, he spews out saying, well, you killed all these people. And everyone starts believing it. And as the reader, we don't, because of the way it's jumping all over the place, we don't know if he's done anything or not. And what exactly happened during those war times. But that is the interesting aspect, but also, like, what pulled me away. I feel like we honestly didn't get enough information where I'm like, oh, this mystery is good. It's just like, I need a little bit more to actually have a scope of what the mystery is, And that's kind of what pulled me away a bit. And maybe because I don't know much about Adam Strange, but I do think there are some really interesting topics covered here. And I'm going to talk about, like, Silver Age versus Modern Age and, like, that transition in another book that was released this week. But I like that. What was the transition between the light days of comics where it was only for kids and then going into the adult age of comics? Like, what was that turning point? And for a lot of people, it's different moments in comics. And maybe for a lot of different characters, it's different moments. So I like that aspect. And then also, like, digging into, like, society-wise and even, like, more social context, I enjoyed the commentary on cancel culture. It's very much this whole plot and premise of this issue where it's like one day you're on top of the world and then this guy says this one thing and Doctor Strange, Adam Strange is totally canceled. So I'm curious to see where that one's gonna go. And I always enjoy how Tom King dissects heroes in obviously Mr. Miracle, he does it for Vision, and obviously what he does with war heroes as well. And I'm interested to see where that story is going to go and what it means for a war hero to come back home. So there's definitely a lot of promise for this book. But again, I think the way it was told, like, I just wanted more with this issue to just kind of get that true hook. But I remember when I read Mr. Miracle issue 1, I also wasn't fully attached, and then by, like, the end of the series, it was one of my favorites. So I think it, you have to also give it a bit of a chance too. And the artwork is absolutely fantastic. I do like that we get to have this lighter, less grittier artwork with Doc doing the past war stuff, and then the current darker age with Mitch's work, which I thought was really brilliant, and I really liked the palette, and whoever the colorist was too, really pulling that together. They actually don't have the colors. Maybe they both did their own colors. They don't have the colors in the middle here. But I think they matched their colors really well as well. So anyway, Strange Adventures issue 1 gets 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is the other book I was kind of talking about with the Silver Age to Modern Age, and that is Batman issue 90, where we get to see a moment before Catwoman's, well, obviously before Catwoman became a hero, but a little after her villainy, I guess, she teams up with the Designer. So yes, this is the first appearance of the Designer, and once again, a very hot comic book for a lot of people, a key issue for a lot. We'll see how big the Designer ends up becoming and how long those numbers will last. But so Catwoman teams up with him, and they all kind of have their own plans that they're doing with him. But then the Joker has a meeting, and that's the turning point for the Joker, where Catwoman's like, that's when he truly became the villain we all know. And I thought that was really interesting, and that's why I kind of mentioned the Silver Age to Modern Age, like how that switch happened with a character like the Joker, and how Catwoman can remember the exact moment, which is being revealed now. And, most of the issue's exposition, which is why it's a bit lower, it's a lot of exposition about, like, this is what I did during this time, and it's about Batman and Catwoman's relationship. I didn't really get the emotional beats as much as I wanted to with an issue like this, but I'm trying to remember what happened in the end of the issue. Yeah, it was the reveal of the Joker, so there wasn't like a shocking moment in the end. But, oh no, it was how it's connected to Bruce's wealth and all that. So we'll see where that ends up going. I do think that the artwork was a little lengthy for me, like kind of skinny. Everyone was looking. I was trying to look for the word for that, but I did like the coloring a lot. I think it was pretty gritty overall. So I'm gonna give this 3 stars. It didn't blow my mind, but I do think there's a lot of pieces that could be very interesting for the future, and obviously for the future of Cat and Bat's relationship. Now moving on to number 7, which is another big book that came out this week, and that is The Flash, issue 750. And I got the Nicola Scott cover, which is cool. It's the Jay Garrick cover. And I will give a preface to say that I'm not currently reading The Flash. I picked this up because of 750, and obviously because there's probably going to be a lot about the DC Universe and the future of the DC Universe with this issue, and there was, which was the parts I really enjoyed with this. Now, unlike Wonder Woman, I feel like you truly needed to be reading that book to fully enjoy it. It wasn't as much an anniversary issue for me. For The Flash, it was an anniversary issue. I feel like they celebrated a lot of different parts of The Flash, and one being the New 52, which I actually really enjoyed. I really liked Brian Buccellato and Francis Manapul's run, and it was cool that they wrote like a little story in there. We got to see Iris as the Flash again, and I thought that was cool, or at least have her Speed Force powers. And we get to see this mysterious girl in the end talking about what happened in that volume. So was it like Jessie? I feel like it could have been Jessie, but she had black hair or more brown hair, so I didn't know who that was, but I thought that was cool. And we do get to see a bit of Wally, which was obviously, I think, a big reason why people picked this up. But I was a little confused because there's a Captain Cold story, or whatever they're calling him now, Citizen Cold. And Wally's talking to Linda at the end of that story, and everything seems normal, and like flash forward didn't happen. And then you have the end, which is like flash forward happened, and Wally's in the Morbius chair, and they talk about the future of the DC Universe and how time has been fractured, and events are happening on the same Earth, but they're different events, and it was interesting, and I like the visuals we get to see with that. But I was a little confused of like how Wally was in both stories. And I kind of wish it did celebrate the family a bit more than it did. You do have one Jay Garrick story, you have one Wally story, but it's mostly a Barry-centric book, and I don't know if we needed like the Mirror Master stuff. Like, I think there was quite a few filler stories in between, but I do think there was more momentum in this anniversary issue compared to many of the other ones. Again, I keep referencing Wonder Woman. That was the big one for me, where I'm like, these are just short stories, and I think you have to be really invested in what's currently going on in Wonder Woman to get what's going on. But with this, I feel like there is a bigger overall story of like what, how people feel about the Flash, why he's an important hero, and then yes, not just the future of Barry Allen, but the future of the DC Universe as well, because that's what we get a lot with Flash stories like this. So overall, I gave it 3 stars. I don't think it was a perfect issue, but I did find some enjoyment with this one, and even if you're not a big Barry Allen fan, I think you'll find some interesting stuff here. And yes, it is an important issue for the full DC Universe scope, if you were questioning that, if that was a reason you were trying to decide if you're going to pick it up or not. So before we go into number 6, I'm going to get a sip of water, and then we'll go into number 6. And number 6 for me is Billionaire Island, issue 1. I am a big fan of Mark Russell. I think he does a lot of great indie books, especially for me, and I love that cover. It's just like this helicopter and this like rich girl who's like on vacation with a gun on her back. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. So this issue, it's very much what we're used to with Mark Russell, which is what I like, is his social commentary. And we get to see all these billionaires utilizing their money, and they're like, oh, poor me, I have so much money, but everyone's against me. So that was a lot of fun. And then we get to see these kind of more normal, I guess we'll call middle-class people who get stuck in a hamster wheel because of this rich dude, and they're trying to get out. And the rich dude gives them really good food, gives them a lot of money, and they're like, yeah, I guess we'll deal with this. And the new journalist is like, what is going on? And then in the mix of this, there's like this assassin guy who was screwed over by one of the billionaires, so that's going on in the background. But I enjoyed the concept of this book a lot. I don't know if I was fully engrossed just because there's a lot of exposition. That's a word I'm going to be using a lot this week, but there was. It's just like, this is Billionaire Island, let me explain. And, about the assassin guy, we get some information about him, but it was very exposition-y, and very much I was told what was happening instead of just seeing dialogue between people and having it be unveiled that way, which I always think is the more interesting way to go. So artwork was really solid for this book, though, and it definitely gave me enough for another issue. I just don't know if it gave me enough to say, oh my god, I'm on board for this book. So we'll see where issue 2 goes. I'm going to give Billionaire Island issue 1 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Strange Academy, issue 1, which is a new Marvel book, which has to do with magic. Now, if you guys know, I'm not a huge magic fan, but I am a big coming-of-age fan, so that's why I picked this one up. And overall, I really like the beginning of this book. We get one character, Emily, and how she, has powers, but she doesn't know what she is, and pretty much how she went to the school. And big reminder of like Harry Potter or like the Magicians. If you like that stuff, you're gonna eat this up. It's very familiar and pretty much that in the Marvel Universe / New Orleans, which was really cool to have that setting. Now, the rest of the book, there's a lot thrown at you. So once you get to the school, there's like 10 characters thrown at you, and you're just like, okay, I'm a little overwhelmed. Which I guess is how Emily feels, but you don't really get that. It's not like Emily's like, oh, I'm in a new place. This is crazy. She's just like pretty positive and along for the ride. So I don't know if the chaoticness was really about being in the point of view of Emily. But yeah, I just thought there was way too much. I'm like, okay, who are you again? What's going on? And I'm hopefully as the series goes on, we'll get to learn more about these characters and in a little bit more of smaller bits, I would say. But overall, I liked Humberto Ramos's artwork. I do think it got a little cluttered once we got all those characters together, but I do like the style for this book, and overall I gave it 3.5 stars. Definitely going to read the next issue, see where it goes, but if it's like this, I don't know how long I'm going to be keeping it, so hopefully it slows down a bit for that second issue. But it was really cool to see other magical characters here like Nico and Magic. I thought that was interesting. And hopefully we'll get to see more of them here too. So Strange Academy issue 1 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is 2020 Rescue issue 1, a book I've been really looking forward to. I'm a huge Pepper Potts fan. And overall, pretty solid issue. We get to see Pepper trying to get DNA of Tony Stark to bring him back to life. His mother is a little hesitant because she believes that, if he comes back, it might not actually be Tony. And that's a big worry for her. But what I really liked is that they really pull into the rescue side of the story. Pepper's not going in there with guns blazing. And she doesn't try to intrude on Amanda's, faith, I would say, and beliefs, where one of the characters is like, all right, Pepper, just pull her hair and let's leave. And she's like, no, I want to get her permission to grab this hair. And I really like their dynamic overall. And the small bits I really enjoyed was Pepper definitely should be something more, and kind of where she got stuck of being Tony's assistant and being like the girl next to Tony and how she feels about that. I actually wish that the book leaned in even more to that because I thought that was really interesting. I will say the art is kind of plain for this issue, but I guess it worked overall. I did like the suits, the suit aspect, but I also feel like the art was a bit cartoony. I wish it was a bit more sleeker for the for a book about armor. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. I love Pepper. I loved her voice here. And if you're a Rescue fan, definitely pick this one up. It's the only 2020 Iron Man book I'm picking up. I think maybe I'll get Riri. We'll see. But I'm going to give that one 3.5 stars. And that is number 4. So moving on to number 3. And number 3 for me is Marauders issue 9. There's like a big, huge poster in the middle of most of these books where it's like, oh my god, this is a thick book. And then you realize it's just like this giant poster in the middle. But yeah, going on to the actual issue, where definitely Kitty's death is still lingering in the pages, where I really like the kind of mind adventure here where Emma is going up against Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket thinks he's seeing Pyro and Jean making out, and it's all Emma's like play in his mind. And she defeats Yellow Jacket, and along the way through this mission, she definitely is missing Kitty, and trying to figure out, like, how do I help her? And she goes back to Krakoa, realizes, okay, she's still not back. Like, why is the island not helping her? Why is she not back to life? Which is obviously a big question we're all asking, is like, is Kitty really a mutant? Like, what's going on? Or what's in play here? And then in the end, I really liked her dialogue overall, because that's our, I guess, monologue, where we get to see Lockheed, and because Lockheed's always in the end saying, hey, make Kitty's not dead. And just like, and Emma like says, hey, I need you. I need you here. I've changed as a person. I don't really know what to do without you, which is kind of cool. I love their relationship, so I hope that string kind of follows as we learn more about Kitty. And it was really cool to get into Emma's head. And yeah, it's kind of a filler issue in some ways, but it was a good adventure, and I think it was a really interesting way to use Emma's powers, and I like the dynamics overall. So artwork also is really solid for this book, especially, again, more of the mental action here. So overall, I'm going to give Marauders issue 9 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Miss Marvel issue 13, which I thought was an extremely solid issue. I love when all the kids are together, where we get to see Kamala's supporting cast, and that's exactly what we have here. Kamala's went through a lot of dark stuff with her dad and just wants to have a fun time at a carnival with Zoe and Nakia. Still dealing with her feelings with Bruno. Doesn't want to tell anybody, which is a shame for Bruno, I guess. And by the end, there's this just fun, like, monster demon that she has to fight. There's a new hero introduced, which I guess will be put through, or we'll get to see more of in Outlaw, which will be interesting. I'm excited for that event. And then, Zoe and Nakia and Kamala just have a really fun time, and I had a good time with it. I just thought it was a fun issue. Artwork is nice and cartoony. I like the action in this issue. I like the new character, and I thought it was a really good filler issue between a really intense issue with her dad, and then obviously what's going to be a really intense event with Outlaws. So, yeah, I enjoyed this one. I'm going to give that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, and this is a book I actually was not on my radar, and I'm really happy that actually the writer contacted me about the book, and I was like, sure, I'll give it a try, and I'm so happy I did. And that is Join the Future issue 1, and that is from Aftershock. And damn, I really enjoyed this issue. It's this post-apocalyptic book where we get to see, technology is the answer to everything. Everyone's happy because of it. And then we transition to this family who are like from the Wild West, it seems like. They're shooting bears, and they're living a happy life. They don't want technology in their life. And our main character, I guess who's going to be our main character, has an asthma attack. So they end up having to use technology to get her better. She lost her inhaler. So then we get back to the town. You get like a little bit of what the town's about. And the people that own this technology really want to bring the town into the modern setting. And the people that live there, and her dad, who's the mayor, is like, no, we don't want anything a part of that. And our main character's brother is kind of interested in the technology, listening to music, and is very moved by it. And then by the end, we get a total shootout, and her brother dies at the end of the issue, which was pretty crazy. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. I just really loved, and I think it was promoted this way, is just like how the landscape of America has changed. And I think it's so interesting to see this very conflicting ideologies together, and where this is going to go through this young girl's point of view, and how technology could be evil and good, I guess, and in a way as well. And I thought the kind of more rigid artwork was really cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed this issue a lot, and I say go give it a try. I thought it was a really cool concept, and really gets you with the characters as well. Obviously shows the stakes of this issue as well. So definitely into buying issue 2. Go check out issue 1. I thought it was really good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Definitely let me know in the comments below what were your favorite comics and everything in between, least favorite. So definitely go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her Dancer. Go sign up for my mailing list if you want more about my writing. And also every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, our comic podcast where we discuss discuss all things comics. And then also check out my Twitter and Facebook. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll be back next week with another episode. Bye.